Hey y'all, so this is the last of our chord scales. We have played chord scales with the first note of each chord on top, the third note, the fifth note. You know what's coming next because there are only four notes in a major 7 or a minor 7 or a dominant 7 or minor 7 flat 5 chord. It's going to be the 7 on top. In a lot of ways, this is our strangest sounding chord scale. It has a very kind of melancholy, unresolved feel to it. And I'm not going to run through all the arpeggios. You know how to do this by now. If you've been through, this is the fourth lesson. You know that our chords are major 7. Okay, we're in the key of C. So C major 7, D minor 7, E minor 7, F major 7, G dominant 7, A minor 7, B minor 7 flat 5. And we end on C major 7 again. The chords are actually pretty easy. They're some of the easiest to finger on the mandolin. The arpeggios are a little awkward because it never resolves. Okay, if you're thinking about C, but to play your C major 7, you start on B, but you're not finishing on C. So like you got this B major 7 here. This is the lowest one we can play. We got our B on the second string, second fret. Listen to that. It sounds just kind of melancholy, even though you're playing a natural E. You're not playing E flat. It's a pretty chord. As I've said before, these major 7s you're going to use a lot. Minor 7s you're going to use a lot. Minor 7 flat 5s are almost more of a theoretical chord. You're probably going to substitute a diminished chord. We'll get into that on another day. We'll get into the diminished chord theory. But these are important because we're literally playing B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and back down. It sounds like it wants to go somewhere. Well, it wants to resolve to C. Or C, or I don't know, C, whatever. Let's just go through them because as always, the chord chart is in the show notes. I'm actually putting together a book that's going to give you the information on all this. You can see it as you hear it. When you get the book, you can go back and do this lesson, and you'll have both a written with chord charts and the audio version. You can hear it. It's going to make a lot of sense to you. But go back to our lesson where we showed major 7 chords, where we showed minor 7 chords, dominant 7s, flat 5s. 4 separate lessons. These are the ones with the 7 on top. So the 7 of a major 7, of a C major 7, is of course B. There's the C, there's the B. And because this is only a 3-note chord, we're dropping off the top string. Now you can play it all the way up to, you can play it up to that B there if that's what you really want to do, but in 30 years I've never had any reason to play a chord at the, what is that, 12th or 19th fret, no, 17th fret? I don't even know. It's more theoretical than anything. I would say do the 3-note chords starting from the B. So you got B, E, G. So we've got our 1, 3, and 5. Just lay your finger there. Very simple. Now remember, we're working up the scale. So the next chord is a D7, and it's 7. This is D minor 7, I should say. And so the 7 of a D minor 7 is C natural. So to play that, we're just going to bar across. So we literally just go. That's B, C, D. Well, I know I said the wrong thing. That's what it is. Okay, so C major 7, D minor 7, E minor 7, F major 7. You can see whereas here we had this with an open G. All we do here is we're going to play these 3 strings, and that's E, which of course is the 7th of the F, A, and C. We're leaving the root off. I mean, when we're playing these 3-note chords, we're getting the sound of the chord. We're getting the melodic color of that chord without the root. And a lot of times when we drop notes from a chord, we're leaving off the root. Why? Well, because the 7 actually tells our ear what chord it is. So the 7th note is what tells us we're going into E. That's why C. We're going into C. That's why it wants to resolve so badly. Now we play our G7 here. That's the F. That's the 7th of the G. Flat 7, technically. So, and then we might as well go up to here for our A, and this time we're just going to come all the way across. 4-note chord. We've got our G, which is the flat 7 of the A, right? C, E, and B. I'm sorry, an A. Yes, G, C, E, and A. Now when we get to, our next one's going to be our B minor 7 flat 5, so all we got to do is adjust one string. It's actually a pretty good sounding minor 7 flat 5 chord. We're barring across these two, just as always. But instead of going here, we're going here. We put the pointer finger on the F string. Yeah. And we're back here. Pick went through and hit the top string on one of those. Just don't even pay attention to that note. I'm going to do it one more time. Yeah, and you see it's an odd sound. It's almost like playing a mode of the scale, which we'll get into at another point in time. But you're playing a major 7 right here, and it just still feels kind of melancholy and lost. It wants to resolve. So these are really good to practice. Really good to practice. In fact, a lot of times when you're soloing, when you're jamming, you're going to want to play a chord or an arpeggio with the 7th note on top. Very often, if I'm playing a blues tune or something and I want to play my G7 with the F on top. I can also do it here, but it's a little trickier. So, learning the 7s on top are really good practice. As for the arpeggio, I'm not going to play this all the way up and down the neck. You know how to do this by now. And as you know, if I'm playing it while talking about it, I often get lost. If I'm playing it without talking and really without thinking, it goes a lot easier. So starting from the 7th, remember we're just playing the same notes of every chord. The notes of a C major 7 are C, E, G, B, C. Well, starting on the 7, which is the B, we'll just start it right here. We go. Now that's in a major chord. That's in a major, yeah. But it just gives it that sound. And if you're jamming along and you want to do something a little different and just trying to change the color, the feel of the song. It's very jazzy. It's got sort of a gypsy feel to it. Dave Grisman does a lot of stuff like that. It's the same arpeggio we've been playing. Instead of going from C, we're going. Totally different feeling. Just like when we went from the 3rd, we went. it just absolutely changes the sound of the song. I mean, if we go from the fifth, whoops, much brighter, much happier sound. The 1 and the 5 tend to give it that tonality of just sort of a bright, sprightly song, right? The 3 and the 7 are your blues tones. They're your what. When we get into a blues scale, which we will soon, you'll see that we're emphasizing the 3 and the 7 quite a bit through the entire thing. We might do a flat 3, but that flat 7 really gives it that almost a feeling of longing and melancholy or angst or whatever you want to think of it as. So, and just follow it up. I mean, you know, I guess what? C, F, A, C. Yeah. So just follow it up the neck until you've done your arpeggios through. And this should wrap up our chord scale and melodic arpeggios. Harmonized, I should say, not melodic. It's different. Harmonized scale is what a chord scale is, because you're playing the notes of a chord, not just playing a single note. They're in harmony. And the harmonized arpeggio, like there may be a better way to say it, but it's the same notes as the harmonized chord scale. So, as always, if you got any questions, let me know. You can email me, judson@judsoncarroll.com, or leave a comment in the comments section. And hopefully, I'll have the book out by the end of the year. And for very, very inexpensive. I'm going to keep it pretty cheap so everybody can enjoy it and, I had to find, in order to understand this way of playing mandolin, old books from the 20s and 30s, back when musicians really had a lot of education, but they were working musicians. And whether it was hands-on experience, like I was talking about Louis Armstrong or Pete Fountain, guys that weren't real big music readers. Of course, Louis did learn to play music, read music, but Pete Fountain never did. They learned it, by ear and by sight, learning from other musicians, or those that had actually gotten, like Eddie Lang or somebody, Harry Rees or George Van Epps. I mean, these guys had so much musical education. I think 2 of those guys, at least, their fathers were classical musicians. And so maybe the other one was an instrument builder, I think. Anyway, they learned really classical music theory. And so when they started playing jazz and popular music and blues, they knew what they were doing. And so when they wrote a book, they would write it from the perspective of, this is why you do this. Not just follow me and play a solo and copy it. This is how you build a chord. This is how the scales factor in. This is how, a mode is used. I had to go back to really old books. We're talking pre-Mel Bay. Now, Mel Bay did a good job on a lot of that stuff, but he was more, he was hired to write guitar instruction for the military and tenor banjo instruction for the military. It was supposed to be like a course where you could just go through and you came out and you're ready to play in a military band or something like that. He didn't get a lot into theory. It was more like, here's a tune, learn to play it. Now we can do some chord substitutions. Now you can vary it up. And it was good solid stuff. Really, I mean, if you go through the Mel Bay guitar books and apply them to mandolin, you're going to be pretty solid. He did actually that with the mandolin. He just changed his guitar books to mandolin. If you can find a copy of those, you're probably going to be pretty solid. But when it comes to things like what we just did, I don't think you're going to find those in the Mel Bay books at all. You would find them in older books from the 20s and 30s. The McNeil Method, the Reeser books for tenor banjo, the Eddie Lang and Nick Lucas books. And I find it very useful. It took me a lot of time. I had to literally buy old books from the 1920s from used bookstores and off eBay to get this, because I didn't go to music school. All I was taught in elementary school was how to play Three Blind Mice on a recorder. And it was literally just rote. Da, 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 da. That was it. I was not taught really how to read music, certainly not taught how to build chords. So I'm taking all this, I'm putting it in just really concise. Just, it's not going to be a long book, maybe 100 pages with all the illustrations of chords and chord progressions. You know how that goes. Real practical advice: how to set up your instrument, how to buy an instrument, how to work in a band, how to fit in and be an asset to a band, and how not to be a jerk in a jam session, and how to exist in that. Even if you're really just a beginner and you're not that good yet, know what you can do and do it, and tell people you're a beginner, and they're not going to expect too much of you. If you're like just fantastic jazz musician, you go into an old timer bluegrass jam and start playing 6/9 chords and raised 11ths. I mean, like what was the Jimi Hendrix chord, 9 sharp 11 or something. They're going to kick your butt right out of there. There's an etiquette to things, and I get through that as well. And so just real practical techniques as far as harmony and tone and everything. But this is a really good practice. Do those chord scales, get them down. In this one, I think the chords are maybe a little more useful than the arpeggios. But if you were playing a tune that was not, in the bluegrass or country or blues genre, Autumn Leaves would be a good example. You could work those arpeggios in there, and they're going to sound really nice. A little bit different maybe than what's written, So, but it's going to follow that same chord. And another musician's going to be like, oh, that's all right. Let's try that for a while, And yeah. Anyway, have fun with this one. Let me know if you have any trouble, and I'll be glad to help you out. Have a good one. I'll talk to you next week.